Okay, so hello everyone. I'm going to present the dynamics of large inflation surges, which is joint work with Blanco and Tereza Ranosova. In this paper, we ask what empirical patterns characterize episodes of large inflation surges. And what we find is that the increases of inflation and expected inflation that characterize these episodes tend to be persistent, and that government responses tend to depart from textbook policy rule and instead show what we call a fear of tightening. Okay, so we arrived to these conclusions by using data on macroeconomic variables and inflation expectations from professional forecasters for a sample of 55 countries between 1990 and 2019. We define a large inflation episodes as one that features an increase of inflation in the right tail of its distribution. And then we conduct an event time study to document the dynamics of macroeconomic variables around these episodes. I'm going to show you 4 facts about these large inflation surge episodes. The first fact is that inflation surges tend to be persistent and characterized by slow disinflations. And I illustrate these in the following figure, which shows the dynamics of inflation around inflation surge episodes, with the beginning of the inflation surge in t equals 0, and then in the horizontal axis, years before and after the surge. What we see is that the inflation surge features an increase of inflation of 5 percentage points relative to its pre-surge levels, and that the next 5 years after a surge are characterized by inflation rates at least 2 percentage points above their pre-surge level. And in that sense, is that these episodes tend to feature persistent inflation. The second fact is that surges are initially unexpected, but followed by a gradual catch-up of inflation expectations. And we illustrate these with the 1 year ahead inflation forecast error, which measures the difference between how much forecasters were expecting for the next year and the actual realized inflation for that year. You see a spike of this forecast error in the year of the surge, and you see a then forecast converge in the next 2 years, indicating that professional forecasters are initially surprised, but then expectations catch up to the actual persistence of inflation. The third fact is that long-term inflation expectations tend to exhibit persistent increases. And we illustrate these with the average 5Y forecast, which indicates how much forecasters are expecting for the 5 years following the next 5 years. And we see that these type of forecasts increase with the surge and remain high for several years after the surge. And moreover, that these increase of long-term inflation expectations tend to be larger for episodes that involve a larger initial increase of inflation. So the larger the inflation surge, the more there is an anchoring of inflation expectations. And finally, in this context, what we see is that the policy responses are characterized by no tightening of real interest rate or fiscal balances. We illustrate this in this figure with short-term interest rates. And the blue line shows that there are interest rate hikes during the inflation surge, but that given that the increase of inflation expectations that I showed to you before, this does not imply an increase of real interest rates, and that real interest rates do not increase during the inflation surge, indicating that policymakers depart from the standard textbook policy rules and show something more akin to a fear of tightening. In the paper, we connect these to the real variables of the economy and to the fact that the economy is increasing declines in growth rates and increases of unemployment rates together with the surge. Thank you very much.